Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. My guest today is Shani Park. She is a postdoctoral fellow, medical science liaison at Inizio Engage, and we discuss her experience securing a medical affairs fellowship and the challenges and what that opportunity was all about. So, great conversation. Don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn for announcements and for content. And speaking of announcements, I would like to invite you all to this year's Fierce Life Sciences Medical Affairs Strategic Summit West. And that is also known as Mass West. That's on September 25th and 26th in beautiful, sunny San Diego, California. Mass East was awesome this year. It's a great opportunity to network with other medical affairs folks, amazing content. So check out this year's Mass West, September 25th and 26th. More information on LinkedIn, or you can Google Mass West 2024 for registration information. We look forward to seeing you in San Diego. Welcome to MSL Talk with Tom Caravela, a podcast specifically designed for MSLs and all things field medical. Hey, Shani, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Tom. Good. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Yeah. So, guys, Shani actually was introduced to me by my friend Jeffrey Vaughn. Shout out to Jeff at Inizio. If you guys have listened to this podcast enough, you'll see Jeff had actually been a guest a few times. He had this idea of me doing an episode with Shani, who is a fellow at Inizio, a fellow MSL at Inizio. So she's in their fellowship program. And a lot of people have asked me, hey, Tom, can you do an episode on what it takes to get a fellowship in medical affairs? And that's what this is going to be about. We're going to hear about Shani's story. But before we do that, this episode is sponsored by MSL Mastery. So for any aspiring MSLs out there that are looking to break into their first MSL role, check out the Aspire MSL program. It's a program Sarah Snyder and I created for people looking to break in. Just go to mslmastery.com and you'll see the details. So, Shani, why don't you do an introduction and tell us about your background? I think everybody's going to know who you are and what your background is so that they can have an understanding of where you started out, and then we'll get into how you got into the fellowship.
Okay, sounds good, Tom. Well, my name is Shani Park. I graduated from USC School of Pharmacy, that's University of Southern California, last year, so May of 2023. I did a one-year fellowship at Inizio Engage, initially in market access consulting, and then I transitioned over to the medical affairs side, including an MSL and medical information. This is technically my last week at my fellowship, although I've actually finished about 2 weeks ago and currently using my PTO, so which we can get into later. But that's a little bit about me. Thanks for having me, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, cool. So I'd love to learn a little bit about your inspiration for wanting to transition into industry. So could you talk to us about how you decided to pursue this?
Yeah, so when I was in pharmacy school, I tried so many different careers. At first, I thought I was gonna just do retail, and then my peers sort of convinced me to do an inpatient internship. So I worked at the hospital for a little bit. I actually worked at the peak of COVID, and I worked long hours and long shifts, and that sort of kind of burnt me out at the time, and it made me want to look for something else in pharmacy. I did have an area of concentration in pharmaceutical industry, which helped me get an API rotation at the FDA and LA Care Health Plan. And that introduced me to other pharmacists who had a career in industry. And after seeing what they went through, it made me want to switch into industry. And so the only way, I didn't really have experience. So the only way to get in was to do a fellowship. And so all of this happened very last minute. I was very inpatient bound the first 3 years, so my resume was sort of built for that. But then my P4 year, I decided to look up different fellowship programs, see what would fit my interest, and ended up applying, and that's how I got in. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let's unpack that a little bit because I know a lot of people say to me, like, it's really hard to get a fellowship. So, can you tell us how you went about it, and not just how you went about it, but like what advice would you have for
Mhm.
people that are looking to pursue this fellowship route?
Yeah. So yeah, no, it wasn't easy, especially because I decided so last minute. So the first thing that I did was I went to LinkedIn, and I didn't really have a profile going. I barely had any connections. And I didn't even have a profile picture at the time. So I started adding like random people in industry that looked like they knew what they were kind of doing, to build my network. And then I looked up different programs by going to different conferences. I went to IPHO conference last 2 years of pharmacy school, and same with Nexus. I went to CSHP and ASHP, and those kind of introduced me to other programs that were out there. I was actively looking on LinkedIn, stalking people's profiles of people who I aspired to be and the background that they had and where they came from. And then to apply for a fellowship, you have to have your resume ready, and you have to have your cover letter ready as well. So I wrote those, I edited my resume early on, had my peers look at it. I've had about 4 to 5 people look at it. And then I also wrote out a cover letter. I made like a template that was essentially used for each program, and I would adjust a few things and personalize it based on each program's mission and their values. And then, yeah, I think just like doing a lot of research and applying to multiple programs helped. As I was going through the interview process, that kind of uh, after getting like rejected after interview, those steps sort of helped prepare for the next interview.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, as I'm listening to what you're saying, and guys, I know you're all probably picking up on this. Like, it wasn't one thing that you did. You didn't just say, "Oh, I want a fellowship. I'm just going to apply to a fellowship and it's going to happen." You created a LinkedIn profile. You started connecting with people. You started reaching out to people, doing informational interviews. You were doing all this research and networking, going to events. What I'm hearing you say is like the IPHO. By the way, shout out to my buddy Jim Alexander at the IPHO, big fan.
Yes.
He's the best. But so you were doing a lot of different things to position yourself. You didn't just say, okay, resume, cover letter, apply to a bunch of positions. It's the networking piece, getting yourself out there and being really super active. So would you say that that's a key ingredient for
Oh
this?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I would say so. The timeline was sort of, I knew I wanted to do a fellowship for sure the summer of my P4 year. And I really didn't have a life after that. I was constantly online looking at different programs. And then you're at rotations your P4 year. So I would wake up like at 4 a.m. before my rotation started. I would be researching then or working on my cover letter. Then I'd go to rotation, let's say like 8 to 5 or whatever. And then I'd come home, eat, shower, and then go back at it till like 2 a.m. So it was
Wow.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of work, a lot of reaching out to different people on LinkedIn, just shooting like a tiny message saying, I'd love to connect with you. If you have some time, let me know. And I live in California, so a lot of people in industry, I think, live in the East Coast. So a
Mhm.
lot of times I would have to wake up early to meet their time. So that was another reason why I was waking up so early.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, you hustled and that's what it takes. So I'm glad that you're giving everyone a pretty clear picture of how difficult it is, because I know there's a lot of people out there struggling and they're trying to either land a fellowship or land their first MSL job and they're having trouble and they think they're the only one. You're not the only one. It's a tough market. It's really super competitive. But in order to get to achieve progress, you have to go above and beyond and do all of these different things that Shani's describing. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you get the fellowship. Can you share the details? Tell everybody, like, how long was the program? What was your title? What are the responsibilities? Like, what is a fellowship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my fellowship was, most fellowships are, I think, 2 years now, but
Mhm.
mine, I got kind of lucky, it was 1 year. It was technically fully remote, but sometimes I would go to my boss's house because we lived kind of close to each other and work on projects together. I had API students that I led for their 6-week rotations. And then initially I started off in market access consulting. So that's like looking at the commercial side of a product, like the HEOR of a product, and demonstrating like the cost effectiveness of a drug on depends on where it is in the pipeline as well, and sort of understanding the pricing landscape and looking at the market need and doing research on the value of the product. So I was there for about 9 months, and then my team went through a big layoff. So then most of my team got laid off, but I think because I was a fellow, they wanted to keep me and show me like different, I don't know, different things within the company where I could like have value and vice versa. So then they moved me to the medical affairs side, and that's where I got experience in the MSL space. So I got to build out a territory map while I was there. I got to share about the latest clinical trials and educate different stakeholders, do KOL engagement, and serve as like a scientific resource for HCPs, including like doctors and other medical experts. And then they also moved me to medical information at one point. So I got to learn about how to respond to FAQs and inquiries from HCPs and patients. So that was really cool. And I think this fellowship sort of like broadened my just like knowledge, and I didn't know there was like so many different fields within industry, and I got a taste a little bit of everything, and that was what was so awesome about this fellowship.
Yeah, that's huge. That's
Mm-hmm.
an amazing experience to be able to have an inside look at all that stuff.
Yeah,
Everything that you just said is just really good stuff to put on a resume. So,
yeah.
what you did and what others may want to do in this fellowship experience, I think could be really valuable. But
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be, what were the challenges maybe that you faced? Were there things that were more difficult or things maybe that you didn't expect?
Yeah, definitely. The layoff is not what I expected. Actually, I was supposed to stay in market access consulting for the whole year,
Hmm.
but then when my team got eliminated, I had to be very flexible because I had to like switch roles fast, and I was constantly meeting new people. Like I was literally meeting like I think 3 to 4 new people like every week. So it was like pretty difficult to like reintroduce myself to each person, and I don't know, just to continuously stay positive, and it's kind of exhausting. Like thankfully everything was over Zoom, but the fact that like you're meeting new people and like you're trying to get to know someone quickly and learn about what they do, and see where you can help them. That was hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. And, look, you're coming into something, um, and I'm sure that it's not like an extensive training program, right? You're kind of just throwing you into it, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and I was also like the first fellow that they had too, so everything was kind of new.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
geez. Well, what did you tell us what did you love about it?
I loved my company. I love the people. I love the work-life balance and the flexibility that it brought me. I was working really hard. You can ask my boss and my coworkers, but I was also able to travel a lot with my friends and work from different cities because I just needed my laptop, and maybe like a notebook or something. I loved all the projects I was a part of. Like work never was boring to me because every client that we worked with was a new drug or a different therapeutic area. And so it was very interesting, and I just honestly never felt like I was at work while I
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to interject something really fast, and I know this isn't an interview. This is a podcast, but
Mhm.
just what Shani just said about some of the things that she liked, work-life balance, flexibility, those are two words, those are two phrases you never say on an interview. And I know you wouldn't, but I just heard you
No,
say that,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
like, uh-oh. Like,
yeah.
guys,
Oh,
anyone
yes.
that's on an interview, especially for an MSL position, definitely don't say that you're looking for,
Oh, yeah,
work-life
for
balance
sure.
and you're looking for flexibility, because they're going to be like, yeah, maybe not. Anyway, I know where you're coming from with it. And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with us. Uh,
Um,
so thinking about your learnings, you went through this, you're done. I'm sure you learned a
mhm.
lot. What are some of the things that you can share that you learned from doing this
Yeah.
fellowship?
Well, I can start off with before I even got the fellowship. I'll say I did apply to about 20 programs, which is a lot. I would narrow if I were doing to do this over again, I would narrow it down to maybe like my top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I went through about 60 rounds of interviews, which is something like no one should ever go through.
60,
Um,
60?
six, 6-0, because each fellowship goes through about like 4 to 5 rounds, and then you
Wow.
do a final round at ASHP. And so it was very, very stressful. But that was possible, I think, because it was at the end of COVID and it was remote. So you could go to all these interviews and you just turn
Right.
on your laptop and do it from your house. But I would narrow it down. I would really think about where you want to end up. Like, what city do you want to actually live in? Because once you graduate, like you have to like sort of start your life over. And at the time, I was willing to go anywhere for any program because I just wanted a fellowship so badly. Um, but in hindsight, I'm glad that some of the programs I applied to didn't work out because I love like my life now and everything that's happened. But with that being said, so I did go through 60 rounds of interviews. I went to ASHP with 6 final rounds, thinking that I was gonna have options to pick from. But then after ASHP, I ended up with nothing. So I got
Wow.
rejected back to back to back in the span of like 2 months. And at the end of it, I was so sad and I didn't know what to do. So at one point, I made an account to make, I think it was, forgot what it was called, not Farmcast, Forecast or whatever, to maybe do a residency in managed care potentially. So like for a week, I was sad and then I didn't want to give up on this. So I like tried again. But now I was looking towards like a managed care residency. But then while I was doing that, this other fellowship opportunity popped up. So even though the timeline ends in December, there's always like more opportunities that come, like I think even through the next year until the summer. So I wouldn't give up if I were someone in my position last year, just to like keep going and keep trying. There's always positions that open up. So that's what happened to me. And then I would talk to everyone. You learn something from literally everyone that you talk to. Might not be a pharmacist. They might be someone that had like a business background that ended up in pharma. Or I had a mentor while I was doing my fellowship. He worked in the IT department, but he was there for like 10 years. So he gave me a lot of advice that wasn't directly related to my line of work sometimes, but supported me in other ways, like talking about work culture here, or who to talk to, or I don't know, he just sort of like pushed me to stand up for myself in the work field. It was a huge transition being a student and then working full time. So like he helped me a lot, even though he wasn't a pharmacist per se. But another advice I have is to be open-minded, say yes to everything, try it out once before you say no. Don't listen to like what your friends say, because like you're your own person, and if you don't try it yourself, like there's no way to ever know if like you'll enjoy something, and you never know what will click. So
Hey, I'll tell you, it's all great advice. Everything that you're saying is great advice, but I love the message of don't give up,
mhm.
because it sounded like at one point you wanted to quit
Oh
and
yeah,
you didn't
yeah,
quit.
yeah, there was like a week where I was really sad after I got rejected so many times. And I really didn't know what to do. Um, but then I was like, I already like tried this much. I already like went through so many interviews. Like, I don't know what kind of questions they're asking now. It would be like almost a waste to give up at this point. So I kept going, and then something came up, and yeah, I was really happy when that
And you
happened.
did it. And
Mhm.
you didn't give up. You got the fellowship. You
Mhm.
completed the fellowship. So now,
Yeah.
and you're on this podcast sharing it with the world, your
Yeah.
experience, how it went, how you did it. So I guess my question now is what's next for you? What do you want to do next?
Well, I would love to stay in the MSL space if I could. Um, right now, as soon as I finished my fellowship, I was applying to jobs like crazy, and I got rejected again. But it was weird because I think my resume was maybe floating around LinkedIn somewhere, and a recruiter reached out to me. And I'm actually pivoting and going back inpatient for now, because I have a great offer,
Hmm.
and it is something that I think could be good in my career, because I have industry experience, and then I had some inpatient experience while I was in school, which I think sort of helped me get this next role. But it there's a lot of great like benefits to this new job, and I'm excited about it. So I think I might head that way for a little bit, but not really sure. I know I'll be back in pharma someday. And yeah, that's where life's kind of taking me right now.
That's awesome. Well, good luck to you. I love your story. It's a story of resilience, and determination and hard work. And you deserved getting the fellowship. You deserve the success. And I love the fact that you are pivoting into this inpatient role because you're
Mhm.
developing a skill set that's going to be transferable and help you. Like that clinical piece that you're going to get combined with what you already have is going to be
Mhm.
really super valuable. So at some point when you want to pivot back and try to
Mhm.
get back into industry, I think you're going to be better suited.
I
Um,
think so too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or is there a therapeutic focus? Is there an area that you're specializing in?
I think it's like a very general area for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do eventually want to come back into pharma. I was very happy there, and but I think it might be a good move to gain as much experience as possible, like while I'm young, and I just want to try everything and see what I like the best from it. So right now I'm gonna go back, but I will still be going to conferences and stuff. So
Yeah,
um,
listen,
yeah.
keep doing all the stuff that got you here, the networking and the outreach, the conferences, showing up and talking to people and creating relationships. That's what builds a career. It's actually in my book. For those of you who don't know, I wrote a book. It's called Job Search Mastery: How to Win Your Dream Job. I talk all about the importance of branding and networking throughout your career, because when you develop a strong network, people are going to come to you when there's positions open.
Mhm.
So you're literally a marketing machine. You're constantly marketing yourself and you're constantly promoting yourself, whether you realize it or not. So through
Mhm.
relationships, you're going to grow a network, and that network is going to come in handy in your career. So,
Yeah.
and I could tell you, Shani's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you just said. I have had a bunch of people reach out to me ever since, I guess, towards the end of my fellowship for other like job opportunities and things like that. And I think like all the work, all the hard work that you do, it kind of speaks for itself, and people eventually like see that. And LinkedIn is there, everything's very public nowadays. So they're like, everything you said is like so true.
You're a great example
Mhm.
of how well it works. You are a
Mhm.
success story and you proved the system. So the book that I wrote, you're proof that it works, even though you probably didn't read
Yeah,
the book yet. That's
I'll read it. I'll
exactly
read
what
it
you need to do.
soon.
Shani, you're awesome. Thank you for joining us this week. It's amazing. And I wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate your story. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And guys, thank you for joining me. As always, appreciate you all. Thank you for your support. If you got value in this, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody that might be looking for a fellowship. It'll help them, I'm sure. Hopefully it helped you. As always, appreciate your support. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe so that you don't miss an episode in the future. And feel free to leave a rating or a review or a comment. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you soon.